Tombstone mentality. It refers to a reactive approach to safety where action is only taken after a fatal event occurs. Rather than wait for a potentially dangerous situation to escalate to that point, Chicago Midway International Airport is implementing some big changes to their airfield.
And it all stems from that hair-raising near miss on one of its runways back in February.
Yeah, that video is just scary to watch. So Chief Transportation Correspondent and pilot MayCay Beeler joining us this morning to explain the move.
Good news. I love reporting good news. So coming soon, the runways will be redesignated and one decommissioned or made inactive at Chicago's second busiest airport. Now, this is all part of ongoing safety improvements spurred on, by a series of mishaps. The most high-profile one that Annie just talked about, that close call or near-miss runway incursion when Southwest Airlines Flight 2504 was about to land on runway 31 Center, mere seconds from touching down. A private jet, mistakenly crossed the same runway directly in front of it. As you can see, the Southwest jet aborted its landing, performing a go-around maneuver in the nick of time, averting disaster. Well, as it turned out, according to investigators, the private jet crew in the wrong place at the wrong time. While the crew was taxiing for departure, they did have an ATC clearance. It reported confusion over the taxi instructions. Additionally, it mistook runway 31 left. They thought it was a taxiway and said the sun was at an angle that temporarily blinded them from seeing runway hold lines and signage indicating runway 31 Center. That's where the landing Southwest jet was. So good news, the Chicago Department of Aviation announced that starting in just a few weeks, runway 31 left will be made inactive and out of service. This to prevent other pilots from possibly being confused on this runway that the private jet pilots thought was a taxiway.
MayCay, we kind of talk about that tombstone mentality normally, and you say it too. Unfortunately, it takes blood to make some of these changes, right? So how common is a change like this to make when nobody got hurt?
It's not very common. You know, think about it like with traffic lights or stop signs. Someone's got to die on the road before, maybe we should put a light there. Or a stop sign. Same thing at the airport when there's something tragic, like with the Potomac situation, they're making changes there. So typically, something really bad has to happen. So this is unusual, and it's good to see.
We know Secretary Sean Duffy's coming up with a plan. He's kind of taking an inventory of some risky airports out there. What do we know about the plan?
So now he just announced he's going to deploy AI, artificial intelligence, to help identify risky areas, risky spots. We actually call them hot spots. And in different areas, pilots and FAA, ATC, we already know certain areas that are dangerous. We call them hot spots. But he's going to incorporate AI to help with that. So the more the merrier that can get in on safety.
Absolutely. So a lot of people might be wondering, since this was the private jet's sort of fault, you know, for going to blame anyone for that. So what happened to the pilots?
So the FAA has a compliance program. If you work with them and explain, gosh, you know, we got confused. The sun was blinding us, and we thought, that's so skinny. We thought it was a taxiway. It was a runway. They're going to work with you on that, give you some remedial training. Also, the FlexJet, the company, will talk to them and say, we're going to review. So this doesn't happen again, because they admitted they were confused and the sun was blinding them. So they're shutting down that runway. It was very skinny, kind of looked like a taxiway anyway. So there were probably problems with it before. And they thought, let's just make it inactive.
MayCay, that's probably not the only confusing runway taxiway out there, and you teach this. You're a FAA flight instructor. So what do you teach pilots about these confusing taxi clearances when you're talking about it with them?
So every time you get a clearance, you write it down and you read it back. Everything is on tape. So they give me a clearance, I read it back to ATC. If I don't understand something, that's my cue to say, wait, what? Say again, repeat that, I don't get it. Once we start taxiing, if then I get confused, I teach students, stop. Stop and ask ATC, okay, we're holding here, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go. And they can get what we call progressive, right? Make the next left turn, stop, make the next right turn. So if you're confused, they are just to stop and ask for clarification.
Yeah, you're not going to get in trouble for stopping.
No.
You know, you might cause a little bit of a backup, but obviously safety is the most important thing.
You got it. Exactly.
That's it.
All right, that's great. MayCay, thank you. That is very good news this morning.